Hello, this is Colin Liddell, and this is the Shortpod, a brief and succinct podcast commenting on the issues and events of the day. And the date is the 4th of August, 2020. Today, I'm going to talk about the George Floyd case, which has come back into focus thanks to the Daily Mail, a British newspaper, getting hold of the police body cam footage, giving us a much better idea of how the Floyd arrest went. It's noticeable that this was a British news source that released this information and not an American one. The question has to be asked, what the fuck are the American media doing? It looks like they are colluding to cover up a lot of news, to release only news that they agree has to be released, so that they can put their particular spin on it. And the story of George Floyd is incredibly loaded with political significance in an American election year. So, thanks to the Daily Mail, we now have much more detail about this case. Well, what do we learn from the footage of George Floyd? Already, this is being spun in different ways. I think the mainstream media is trying to emphasize how scared and terrified poor little George Floyd was, terrified of these big, bad, nasty police officers, etc., etc. Essentially, they're trying to reinforce the narrative that they decided to run with from the very beginning, that George Floyd was this innocent, helpless victim, completely at the mercy of these big, bad, white supremacist cops who need to be reined in because Trump has empowered their racism. That seems to be the story they're going with. But any sensible, objective person who looks at the video will notice quite a few other things. One of the most obvious things is that George Floyd resorts to his famous "I can't breathe" line very, very early on in proceedings. This line is associated with the actual incident where the police officer kneels on his neck. People have, of course, pointed out that if somebody's really kneeling on your neck, you're not going to be able to say, "I can't breathe." But that's neither here nor there, because Floyd resorts to this line very, very early on. And it seems very, very clear to me that what he's doing, he is trying to put on an act. He's trying to pretend that he's terrified of being put into the police car because he has some kind of claustrophobia. This is kind of also quite funny because where was he arrested? He was sitting in his own car when he was arrested. So it's not like he has some insane aversion to being inside a vehicle. This is not the issue. The issue is that he is desperately trying to avoid being put into the police vehicle. People who are trying to support the mainstream narrative are saying that this is because he's genuinely terrified, because the arrest has kind of triggered all these traumas and psychological issues, and that the poor man is in fear of his life, and that he somehow associates being put into the police vehicle with the ultimate terrors of hell or something, whatever. Anyway, the fact is that Floyd is not as insane or as kooky as he is pretending to be in this video. What he's really trying to do is stay out of the police vehicle so that he will be in a better position to get rid of any evidence that might be still on his person. If you look at the video in toto, what he's trying to do are two things. First of all, he's trying to placate the police so that they don't place him in handcuffs. Secondly, he's trying to avoid being put into the police vehicle so that he can find an opportunity to dump or conceal any evidence. This would be in the form of small packets of drugs or illegal substances that he would probably have stashed away in certain pockets in his clothing. Once he's in a police car, once he's handcuffed, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get rid of those items, and it's going to be easier for the police to search him and to find something incriminating. Now, why is he doing this? This is because George Floyd is a career criminal. He's been in prison at least 5 times. He's been arrested God knows how many times, possibly dozens of times, and he has a good understanding of how the police work and how they get evidence for crimes like this, which started out as a police investigation into counterfeit money, but which speedily turned into a drug-related arrest, because the police noticed the erratic, druggy behaviour of Floyd and his companions. So that's what they're probably looking for, and he kind of knows that, and he probably has certain incriminating little packages of drugs, and so his main concern is simply to get rid of that evidence. Several of his previous arrests and convictions were for drug offences, and the thing about drug offences in the American legal system, and I think in most countries, is that the more often you are caught with drugs, the more severe the punishments become. So Floyd is very, very well aware that his freedom is on the line, which, as we see in the video, is why he pretends to go out of his way to be servile and submissive to the police officers, while also passively and somewhat physically resisting attempts by the officers to handcuff him and place him in the vehicle. So from this we see the true meaning of the words, "I can't breathe." He's basically saying, I can't sit in the back of the police car handcuffed while you search me and find the incriminating drug evidence that is going to send me back to jail for a number of years possibly. This then exacerbates the situation to the point where he is forced down on the ground. A knee is placed on the back of his neck and upper shoulder, and he is restrained like that as he continues to parrot his catchphrase, leading to the final moments where the evidence suggests that he had some sort of drug-fueled heart attack that led to his death. So we see that this story is completely misreported. It's spun in a highly distortive and socially polarizing and destructive way. It's turned into the worst kind of political football. And so this is what people mean when they say multicultural societies can't really work. Quite simply, the most kind of mundane, everyday kind of incident like this, a run-of-the-mill police investigation into petty crime, turns into a trigger for what is, in effect, a kind of cultural civil war. And what's going to happen next is that there's going to be a trial, and police officers are probably going to be convicted anyway. And if they aren't convicted, then there are going to be more riots. So, all that to look forward to. Over and out.